What's going on, guys? Welcome to today's episode of Money Moves. We had a lot of great feedback from last week's episode. We just, I think that the winning recipe for this weekly segment is just unleashing Mr. Breedwell on his free thoughts. And we got a lot more to dive in on today, so we're going to run it back. We're seeing trillion-dollar market swings on headlines, inflation potentially heating back up. We've got the Fed hitting pause at the worst time possible. Or maybe these are just the headlines that are creating all the noise and the fear. We're going to dive into it today. Meanwhile, housing is cracking, consumers are stretched, and AI is accelerating in the background. It raises a bigger question. Are these isolated signals? Are these things that you really should be buying into? Or, as Mr. Breedwell likes to say, is this just the noise that you need to ignore and stay the course? We're going to dive in on today's episode. All right, Mr. Breedwell, we are back. We got a lot of stuff to dive in on today. Last week, we had, obviously, Mr. Powell give his final FOMC speech, and he was a little more hawkish than we expected him to be, so we're going to unpack a little bit of that.
Yep.
I mean, there's a lot of stuff going on. I'm just going to read you guys the list that is on the docket today. So, obviously, political, call it headlines, really the war specifically, escalations, Trump tweets of things are resolved, not resolved, disruption to energy supply, concerns around inflation pushing higher. Obviously a lot of volatility is getting injected into the market right now. We've got the Fed talking about potentially removing some of the rate cuts that were dot plotted for the rest of this year. Even people are freaking out, saying that we're going to see rates rise this year with a hike. We've got some very hot takes for you on that. The market being driven by headlines right now, and really not a lot of fundamentals that I'm seeing with outside of a lot of the stuff that I know you guys are doing, Ryan. We've seen trillion-dollar swings in minutes, whether that's in precious metals, the stock market, crypto. Housing is definitely showing some additional cracks. Pressure is mounting in certain areas and sectors. Demand is dropping off a cliff. Mortgage rates are rising. We just saw a 7% jump up this last week, the highest since August. And we're seeing rents decline across a lot of major cities that saw major jumps post-COVID.
That's the first positive I've heard.
Yeah, coming back, baby. Consumer weakness. Nearly half of Americans are struggling with housing, while retail closures are starting to accelerate a little bit. We've got Bitcoin reacting to macro shocks, while tokenized equities signal a new trading paradigm. We've got some updates on the Clarity Act bill, some of the things that banks are still lobbying and jockeying for position on with this big transition. AI is accelerating. We got all kinds of shit to dive in. First and foremost, how we doing today? Mr. Breedwell. Ooh, that was like that.
Good.
That was my Jim Carrey where he spits it all out. All right. So
only bear in my life.
Man, there was a lot. Let's start with Mr. Powell right away. There was a lot of hope that people thought his last, podium speech, you thought he was going to come in a little more dovish.
He sizzled out a little bit. Well, it may not even be his last speech. It's his assumed last speech.
Yeah, because he even said, if they don't affirm war he'll remain sitting.
He did that
on the board.
That's how he came into. They were not finalized,
right.
So he had to come in that's what happened with his tenure as well. So it's a normal thing, but most likely that is his last significant Fed speech, Fed talk, whatever you want to call it.
Before we dive into his talk,
he is going to stay on he also did announce he's going to stay on the board
right
through the investigation.
Overall rating, what do you give his term as the Fed chair on an A through F scorecard? And why?
I give him a B minus.
B minus.
I think he
What would have made it a B or an A minus? People
not saying inflation is transitory.
Yeah.
That knocks him like to never being able to get an A already. That was like the opposite of what happened.
Yeah.
And then not cutting and being late to cutting, and then when they started cutting,
that whole they 50 basis point cut for Kamala right into the elections was I give him a B.
The things that he did were the right things to do at the wrong time, either too late or done for what looked like political gain. But even with that, I can be man enough to say he did a pretty good job. I mean, he dealt with Trump, not Trump, and then Trump. That's a hard mix of administration and policies to deal with. He had COVID. He had rolling recession in 2022 and 23 with rising inflation under the Biden administration, and he dealt with the current administration's, spiciness, which is not shocking, but something to be noted. That's why that, Trump's political toolbox is very interesting. But overall, I mean, I'd love to see anybody who has criticisms of him get in there and do better. It's, it's hard. It's not easy. It is easy to be on the sidelines and criticize.
Oh, for sure.
And I'm, one of the first people to do it. But at the same time, I always have it in the back of my head. There's a lot of stuff going on that we don't know about, and a lot of moving parts, and a lot of smart things, and a lot of smart people trying to do their best.
Yep.
Which I truly believe overall. So, yeah, I think that he did pretty good. I just think that he could have. My biggest problem with Powell is he would be like the guy that was really good in high school and got to college, and even played good in college in whatever sport he was in. But a scout would see him and say he just doesn't have that
pro level.
He doesn't have the hunger or the fire in his belly to be a pro. He's almost there, and he definitely can identify those moments, but he doesn't make the right decision in the moment. That's what separates, and we're talking sports here, a professional athlete from a college athlete. That's why the pool gets so tiny, even from a tiny pool from college to professional athletes. It takes a level of skill.
Yep.
In this case for the Federal Reserve, that I just don't think he had. Now, did he do better than some other people could have done? Probably. And I don't even want to explore what it would have looked like under other chairs, because we already know how it panned. And the S&P's at the highest level, or close to about 10% off the highest level it's ever been. I'm not terribly upset with that.
Now, the market reacted to his kind of hawkish tone a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
The biggest thing was, tariffs. We still think he was kind of beating that very gently of like, we still think there's some upward inflationary pressure from tariffs still to be seen, but we think we're starting to see a little bit of it. And then he really specifically kind of threw the, not a big jab, but just a little like, hey, this war and what's going on with oil and Iran, and depending on how long that, plays out, whether it's longer, we have some concerns about how that's going to, be absorbed with inflation. And the markets did what as a result of kind of that speech?
Yeah, they were already volatile. I think they were trading around the 68, 67 range, and they pulled back down to around the 64, 65 range, where they bottomed out. And then earlier this week, on Monday, we had a rebound based off of the news that the current Iranian leadership, whoever they are, which we did get confirmation it's not the current, whoever they say the supreme leader is publicly, that's not the back channel discussion right now, is making assurances and making promises that things are looking in the right direction. And I think that is where both parties want to be. There's not, a lot of places are calling it a war too. It's not a formal war. Nobody's declared, well, maybe Iran has, but no serious party has formally declared war on each other. That would need to get voted on. So this is a conflict. And without
Air
getting into
quote
it.
operation.
Yeah, I'd recommend you just educate yourself on the Constitution and the president's powers.
Well, they already ruled on it that he can continue doing what he's doing, and that he does not need to go to
Of course, he has 60 days.
Yep.
From whatever date they decide is the first day before he has to then get Congress's input.
Correct.
Because it's, and again, this was commonplace during the Obama administration. Nobody bitched about it, but it happened like 9 times where we ran campaigns like this, especially in Syria. So I just, save it. And, again, without going off on a Gen Z tangents on the liberals, that's the problem with them. They're just echo chambers of bullshit. None of it is real. It's all emotional plays. It's all, Chuck Schumer, what an asshat, just completely making up shit, talking about how it would make it just is so frustrating when adults don't act like adults. And then you go and see, on both sides, young conservatives, young liberals, they're idiots. They're just really stupid. The spring break interviews are coming out where they ask people basic,
it's insane.
Basic questions, and they can't even answer them.
Yep.
So it's just kind of like, man, those are the people though that are voting and that don't like, a lot of them don't like Trump, and then you just push them this one bit. It's like a wet paper sack, man, just rips.
I've heard, and we'll talk a little bit more about kind of what you think in terms of what the Fed's going to do going forward. I know a lot of people are upset at Trump right now. I've been seeing we were promised mass deportations, $2 gas, no new wars, Doge refund.
People are saying we didn't deport people.
This is just what the talking narrative is on
gas. Got down to
what? Here's
I can't tell you about $2 gas. I haven't seen that.
There's a lot of
driving.
There is a lot of
California.
MAGA influencers and MAGA people that are
but fuck Marjorie Taylor Greene and whatever that
not just her.
Lower up
early.
But I know, but those are the IQ levels. Like, these are not smart people. Well, you're gonna watch me here. These are Republicans, so you're gonna watch me keep it fair here. These are idiots. Laura Boebert is a fucking dumb bitch, and so is Marjorie Taylor Greene. They're not smart people. They're fucking idiots. I don't care if they support
not just
the president. I know, but that is the mold that the MAGA.
Well, here's
what they are is they're exactly,
and you can respond to whether you think all of these things that he campaigned on, because this is the talking point that's running.
We're 1 year in.
Yeah, year and what? Year and a quarter, right? So, mass deportation, securing the border. I think he's doing.
I'm pretty sure that's done.
Good on that, right?
Yep.
Gas. That's whatever. No new wars. There's multiple posts of him saying he would never go into Iran and that kind of stuff. And so, there's that, right? I think that's a fair one. And again, as long as it doesn't get drug out. And here's the thing, we hear people say 5D chess. We hear people saying checkers. It's going to be seen in hindsight versus like people making their stances right now. So I'm still going to say I'm undecided on that one. Doge refunds, haven't seen or heard anything of that since that all played out. Tariff refunds, haven't seen or heard anything about that. That was a big talking point for him. Abolishing the Department of Education, that hasn't been done. No Epstein arrests, no deep state arrests, no Biden auto pen arrests. Election integrity, I really hope they can get the Save America Act. He's big on the America part. And no inflation, cheaper groceries. Those are some of the things that I think people are scrutinizing a little bit more now. And I think it's fair. You can't say that he's nailing it on all these things because he's not. Do you think he is?
No, I don't. But I also know he's a politician, and I'm not. I'll use the rising popular word. I'm not retarded, and I know that he's going to say things to get elected.
The research shows it is returning the R word. I digress.
Here's what I will say that he has done, which he actually has control over. We haven't gone into war with anybody. I don't care if you're dumb enough to think this is a war or not. We're not. If we were in war, I promise you, it would be like, if you think this is fast, we would be wiping the fucking earth with turbines. So I'll put it that way. It'd be way worse than what it is now.
Yeah.
If we actually formally declared war, oh my God.
Yep.
It would not even be, it would make liberals spin on their heads it would be way worse than it is now. So let me just be very clear on that. Second, inflation has come down. I will point you to PPI, CPI, and PPE numbers. I'm not talking about a one spike up and then I'm talking about what's the trend. The trend is down. It's sub 3%. True inflation sitting at about 2.1%. Also on that, we have an arbitrary goal of 2% inflation, which we've never had ever. Yeah. 3% has always been the number. So I don't know where we're sub 3 or at 3. This is like the kid getting 94s and the dad getting pissed it's not a 96. Like, it's really like, that's the hair we're splitting. Mm-hmm. So that's not a big deal. Gas prices, he has no control over. So I don't care what you think, but here's what I will tell you. Until the Iran conflict happened, gas was the cheapest I ever saw it in California in the past 5 or 6 years.
Yeah.
Bottom line.
That changed 30 days ago, 45 days ago. It was, yeah, I agree.
What are some other stuff? Grocery prices. You should pull margin reports. If you're smart enough and you want to do a little bit of my work, go pull the margin reports from grocery store companies and watch their margins spread from 2025, meaning they're paying less and charging you the same. What influence does the president have on that? I'm just telling you, like, that's the real deal. What's going on? You guys think that the president, or not you guys, but if you think that the president controls grocery prices, you probably voted for Kamala Harris. You're a fucking idiot. And if you think the president controls prices and you voted for Trump, you're a fucking idiot. He has no control over that. Those are publicly traded companies that set their prices based on what they need to get to their shareholders. And a lot of them are private. They have nothing. But here's what I will say. Eggs are less than $1 an egg. I buy premium, fucking free range. Chickens are having a ball. They're eating insects and shit. I'm paying less than $1 an egg. I'm buying prime fake grass-fed beef because that's not even a real thing in the United States. My wife thinks it is. And so we're paying a premium to get a sticker on there and say it's grass-fed even though it's grain-finished. And it's cheaper than when I was buying it before. My bill at the grocery store used to be $170. It's about $120. Okay? Prices are not just going to adjust down because inflation is under control. Because most of the companies you do business with are publicly traded. And they're passing through the profits that their shareholders have never seen. And if you think they're going to get on an earnings call and say, hey, we're going to do the American thing and lower our... That's not the American thing. I'm sorry to tell you. The American thing is to make as much money as you can. And until consumers stop paying it, which they're not.
Right.
And I'm not agreeing with that this is the right way to do it. They're going to continue to charge that price. They charge $1.60 a gallon for just fees in California because the voters vote for it. You can eventually convince people that the wrong thing is the right thing. And that's all that the grocery stores are doing. It's the grocer's fault. It's your distribution channel's fault. They have adjusted their prices up to pre-COVID levels, and COVID levels, they are not pulling them back down because you're used to paying them. Look at a plane ticket.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm about to go to Europe in May for a couple weeks. And I called and I was asking them to change my flight on May 2nd to a different flight on May 11th. So I'm pushing it back over a week. And I'm asking for the same exact class, the same exact seat. I just want to transfer through LAX. I don't want to go through Minnesota. $36,000 would have been the cost
to change
my seats. And I literally had to say, they're like $12,000. I'm like, oh, $4,000 a ticket? Oh no, $12,000 a ticket. A ticket. I am flying business class on the second leg of my trip. Okay, that's where you lay down. I am flying first class because I have a child to Minnesota. It's a 3-hour flight. 36 grand, bro.
That's wild.
The problem is leisure cost is insane. The implementation of the carbon tax, I mean, I can get into a whole bunch of stuff. The fact that I have to pay $1,300 to fly across the ocean, period. That's a carbon tax. That's the tax that we decided that we were. Why? Why didn't you just let me spend $1,300 in your country?
Yeah.
So again, there's all these things that happened during COVID that were to help with COVID, to get the world back on, and none of it's gone away. None of it's gone away.
So is that something that eventually some catalyst will make it go away? Or
The only thing that's going to make it go away is consumers.
I mean, because I'm just wondering, like, how do consumers?
You stop buying the product.
Right.
That's the only way. But let me tell you what happened. They're not going to. That would take somebody sacrificing their personal vendetta to make a point to a company, and they're not. You'll sacrifice not flying through Delta, and you'll go buy through American, or you'll not fly through American. And they know that. Hats off to Ed Bastian for cutting the Senate and Congress fast lane for Delta. Announced today that, hey, if Congress is going to be shut down, we're not letting them we're now going to recognize them as normal people. You let them skip lines and go straight on their plane. They're like, no, we're now recognize you just like everybody else by your Sky Mile status. So if you guys want to play games and be shut down, it's affecting our consumers.
I love that.
I love that. But at the same time, these are also the same people. I mean, like, look at Southwest. I mean, Southwest I like that they do assigned seating, but I'm like buying tickets now. I'm like, this is as much as it is to fly in a premium product in a bus.
It's not so lovely as it was.
Have you flown it recently?
Not recently, because
it's really easy to get on the plane. Like, that's what they fixed. But I'm like, I paid $1,900 to fly to Austin on Southwest. I'm like, what am I paying? That's a $1,900 bus ticket.
So what are your thoughts on, the Fed talked about inflation a little bit, concerns, to your point, right?
I don't see inflation concerns. I just see
because we saw a few interest rate futures were pricing in potential rate hikes.
Yeah, that's stupid. I mean, that's not going to happen.
And I think the other big talking point that came out of Powell's talk was that the U.S. private sector job growth was essentially zero.
Well, yeah, and because a lot of it was government workers. Yeah, that's true,
right? So he didn't touch on that. I think the narrative that seems to be overwhelmingly loud right now for a lot of people is AI is coming for your job. AI is coming for your job, right?
Mm.
And so, are we seeing job growth stagnating? Is this something that is, coupled with all these other potential talking points of concerns? And you and I were talking about it before we jumped on the show. It's like, I know for me personally, if I'm flush with cash and I've got some reserves and I'm not overextended, when I hear a lot of this chatter and noise, it's just kind of water off my back. Whereas I know for a lot of people who are paycheck to paycheck, they're barely threading a needle every month to, make it by on it and, really not just be able to survive or thrive, but like they're just barely surviving. When these narratives get louder, people really internalize it emotionally. And I wonder if that's really more of the fear that we're seeing right now is just some of the consumer weakness they're still putting along. But at the end of the day, like underneath the water, there's a lot more concern. And these larger narratives, I think, are starting to maybe show the fear and some of the stuff that maybe we don't see behind the data. That's just more of a theory, not necessarily something I'm saying, hey, this is it. But to me, it seems like I haven't seen as much fear in my timeline as I have maybe since last April.
I did 12 months ago, and I asked you a straight question. What was the problem last April? And you had to get the same response?
Yeah.
I knew, and I said, this is just refreshing. You have no idea.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't, when
you actually had to look it up. We're talking not even actually 12 months ago. We're talking 11 months ago.
Was a bigger pullback than
double what we were actually getting close to 20% at this point down.
Yep.
So double where we are now.
Yeah,
and I was saying the same thing I'm saying now. And I will say this, I'm getting more pushback now than I was then. Why?
Yeah,
It's emotional. It's all emotional. But it's never different.
I think the war component is probably what scares
There's
people.
no war though.
Okay, well, let's say the operation, us going into
I don't
the
know
Middle East.
So unpack that.
Like,
What's scary about that?
Well, I think it's the oil components of, we see a lot of the fears that people are having around energy, oil.
What was oil trading at?
Ultimately, the world, and specifically a lot of, let's just call it, important goods going through the Strait of Hormuz. If that gets bottlenecked, whether it's petroleum, ammonium, it's all of the important things that ultimately make industrial production go around the world, specifically for our farmers. We got fertilizer.
We don't buy oil from Iran, though.
Well, I know
we don't at all.
I know we don't. I'm just saying, I think
0%.
It's the narrative of the global impact and it pulling other people in other countries into it that people are really getting scared about. Whereas,
but I would ask those people why. I love it when people say things.
Yeah.
And I hear them. And it's like, okay, so why is that scaring you? What does that have effect on us domestically? What was oil trading at per barrel in 2023 under Biden?
I don't know.
About $87 a barrel. $5 off where we are now. Was that a minus the gas prices were high and nobody said a word about them? Was that a problem back then?
No.
Why is it a problem now?
Yeah.
Were you buying the S&P 500 back in November? I know I was.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was trading at the same level it is now. It's like all you have to do is he's just like the skin off an onion, not even one layer in.
Right.
That deep of how actually, why, what did you mention out there? You said there was some sort of energy crisis going on in India and China. I said, who the fuck cares?
Yeah.
I mean, I would care if I lived in China or I had business interests in China or same with India, but I'm in Sacramento, California. Well, what impact does that have on me? And it goes to show most of the stuff on the news is not important. It's not news. There's not really much to talk about. Information moves too quickly. You already know most of the stuff that's going on.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bunch of bullshit. It's a bunch of non-important bullshit to get you distracted off of the stuff that is important.
Yeah.
Like the Epstein files. And there's been nothing with that. And the fact that grocery stores are holding their margin. Nobody's talking about their margins. Everybody just wants to point the finger at the president. What is he going to do? If Trump has that power, then fucking what did Biden do? Biden didn't do shit then. He could have just said lower grocery store prices.
Yeah, right.
I mean, what arguments are we having? It's just it's really.
And this is why it goes back to you gotta just eliminate the noise.
IQ level of a fucking rock,
the noise.
dude. I mean, I can sit up here in my foam posit shit with my bear shirt and smoke half these people that are in there with a fucking suit and tie on because I use about 2 ounces of common sense.
Yeah.
It's not that hard. It's really not hard to be successful. It's really, well, I'll take that one back. It's not hard to do the things to be successful. You have to do the hard thing. That's the hard choice is doing the hard thing. After that, it's easy. It's not hard to ignore the noise. It's not hard to put your blinders on and understand that if it was as easy as listening to headline news, then why isn't everybody successful when they follow headline news?
Yeah.
You're going to be...
Most aren't. I mean, that is the sheep mentality, sad to say it, but the people that are glued to CNBC and MSNBC and CNN and Fox News, all of them, they're not. They rely on the brainwashing and the propaganda and the fear and just the emotional
fear stoking.
Yeah, the ability for them to move and persuade based on what comes out of those talking heads on those TVs. I mean, and this is what we talked about earlier, ooh, head fake. I think, again, this is just my take. And I think you and I are aligned on this. This is, and time will tell, but I think this is another one of those big head fakes.
It absolutely is.
Right? And
it's going to rebound so fast.
Before people can even take it.
It's going to break people's necks.
Yep.
And it sucks that I know that. because I know how many. I've had maybe five serious conversations out of the clients that I have, which is not a lot, that were worried about the market. And really all it is just, they're just regurgitating things they hear on the news.
Mhm.
But then when you poke it 5 times and you realize it's dead and it doesn't have anything in it. But all they're getting is headline crap. And then it's like, okay, well, what's your, we're down 10%. What's your average rate of return? 27%. Just like, what do you want me to do? I don't know what else to do, but I can't do anything. Like, I feel blessed that people think that I have the power to avoid losses in the market, but we take losses too. We do. It's part of investing. But that's just what we know. We just know it's part of investing.
Yeah.
You
win more than you lose.
Having investments is one thing. You know a lot of real estate investors that have investments, but poorly run their financial plan, meaning the juice they're getting from the squeeze is kind of pathetic compared to what you could do. So what I a lot of the time see is those people that are making those mental decisions or having that mental type of gymnastics, it's people with investments with no financial plan. So they don't have a plan to follow.
Right.
They don't go, check. I have 8 years on my financial plan where I have double-digit losses. Here's my first one that we already planned for this. It just happened when we didn't know. It's already planned. It's already in my plan. I already know I'm going to take losses multiple times. But look at all the years where I make money. Hyper-focusing on losses is the easiest way to miss out on gains.
Yeah, 100%. So let's just cap it off with the summary of kind of the Fed decision last week. Halted rate cuts, another pause for the second straight meeting. They projected one rate cut in 26, one rate cut in 27. They revised PCE inflation forecast for 2026 up to 2.7. Again, 2.7.
2.7.
So let's not get too concerned over that. Obviously, they did acknowledge the Middle East conflict and said the implications are still uncertain. They're monitoring those. Governor Moran was the only one who dissented in favor of an interest rate cut. I forget who the second one was last time. There was 2 of them. Just Moran this one. And the rate decision was an 11-1 vote. And they believe December was, Fed Chair's Powell's final rate cut. So are you still on the camp of July?
Yes. Yeah, I am. Because there's going to be a new Fed chair that comes in and he's going to want to make Trump proud.
Yeah.
And I would guarantee you the first thing he's going to do is cut as fast as possible. And I think doing that sooner rather than later gives you more runway to fix it if it doesn't go the way you want. But I'm very convinced, definitely could be wrong, but I'm very highly convinced that whoever's getting picked, it's like going to be verbatim said that I'm expecting you to cut rates.
Yeah.
And if you don't, you're going to spend years of me just dragging your shit through the media. And that's just what it was. Because once you put him in, you can't take him out.
Yep.
But I'm certain Powell has not had a great last tenure, which his tenure this second time through with Trump has been a lot more contentious and not fun. And I also think Trump knows what he's doing a lot better this time. And so, he's getting stuff done a lot more efficiently and effectively than he did. But yeah, I would anticipate at least one cut. And I don't think it's a stretch to say 2. The futures that are there right now are based on what the current Fed chair said, which he is on his way out.
Yeah.
And so fresh minds are going to come in and they're going to say something similar but completely different, and that's going to flip the futures market completely on its head when that happens.
Here was an insane move yesterday in the market. I'm not sure if you caught this. At 7:04 a.m. Eastern time.
I saw the block, yeah.
30 minutes after the New York Open, President Trump said the U.S. and Iran discussions have been extremely productive, working towards ending the Iran war. By 7:10, the S&P 500 surged 240 points, adding 2 trillion in market cap. So just from that alone, you can tell how many people are waiting for this conflict to end.
A lot of the downturn too is people pricing in a rate hike.
Yep.
About 3% of it. So it's like there's like a free 3%. We're really trading like in this is hypothetical, but when I look at a chart and I see the actual number we're trading at, we're really at like 67.40, 67.60. So we're like there's artificial bets
Already.
That there's going to be a rate hike, and there won't be. It's one of the most talked about things, how obvious it's that there's not going to be a rate hike, that I think I've already seen a Bloomberg article about it, warning investors not to get caught with their neck out, that this is not going to be a trade you want to chase. Morgan Stanley already sent an internal email to their traders. Bank of America already said, hey, we're not seeing a rate hike. Wells Fargo said they're not seeing a rate hike, one of the biggest mortgage servicing banks in the United States. I don't think, and I'm not seeing options activity that goes opposite of that. They're not like saying this in front of your face and then doing something else behind closed doors. They're not. They're the people that manage your money are betting the opposite of what the news is saying.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to ask, who knows better about money, the people that manage it or the people that guess about what's happening with it?
So we saw that 2 trillion pump into the market, big old green candles.
Ripped back. I mean, there's profit taking immediately.
And 27 minutes later, Iran came out and completely denied all of President Trump's claims, calling it fake news. There's been no contact with the U.S., and that they were, ready to continue on. Essentially, by 8 a.m. Eastern time, the S&P had fallen 120 points, erasing 1 trillion in market cap. That's a $3 trillion swing in market cap in 56 minutes just in the S&P 500.
Yeah.
We also...
Sorry,
I was just going to say, we saw... I think there were some major insider moves. It was like 3 minutes before his tweet was like a $1.5 billion position that was taken long.
I know there was a $120 million short position closed out in oil a few minutes before the announcement, which is...
but this is not anything new, right?
Highly suspicious. It's
Very,
statistically
very
slim to line up with somebody making that as a guess.
Yeah.
But probably some insider trading.
Yeah.
That's all,
for sure.
Probably some insider trading.
Well, here's some positive news. The SEC approves NASDAQ rule to allow tokenized stocks and securities trading.
Yeah, that's going to be that's our internet.
I'm very interested to see how this all unfolds. And to your point, right, that's a revolutionary shift to the stock markets and the exchanges as a whole, right?
Yeah, because that's the first step for 24-hour trading. Tokenizing assets so they can kind of self-manage themselves digitally. You need a market maker. Yeah, that's kind of that's really like our parents had in the early 2000s, late 90s, the internet, the advent of it and what it was and how it changed the world we live in. I'm pretty confident in saying, I didn't say this about AI, but I will say this about tokenization. AI will eventually, but it's going to be like the synthetic.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a really good search engine to me. That's like what AI does for me. Like, it makes my life easier. If you give it the correct inputs, it'll work hard for you, right?
Yep.
But it's not doing anything I couldn't do. I'm just asking it to crunch data faster than I can. Synthetic will take that further. But very exciting with the tokenization because it's just quicker. It's more transparent. It's very light as far as its weight for processing.
A lot of the things that the current system is
I would say it just does things. It takes everything good from all the multitude of 30 or 40 different systems. It takes the best of them and it puts them into one item, which still will need to be improved. And if we're going to think something's good now and see in practice, it's not as good as we thought. But we have a very much more to par of times financial instrument. And really, the last thing we had kind of like this was ETFs in the 90s. Exchange traded funds for mutual funds. Hey, I want a basket of securities, but I want to trade it like a stock. People were like, oh, it's going to blow up the economy because people, mutual funds have end of day pricing. They tally up the buy and the sells, and they give you an NAV, net asset value, at the end of market close. And that's why your mutual fund pricing updates when the market closes. ETFs just say, hey, we know the value of the stocks. We know the weighting. Yeah. So just trades live. I put sell in, sold. I put a sale in for a mutual fund, sold when market closes. So that was like the new. Then we had crypto, but it stayed unregulated, stayed in this little sphere for well over a decade, well over almost 2 decades. And now here we are, and how that's now going to be kind of encompassed together and work together. Probably like an internet level moment for our generation. And I think millennials are going to benefit from it the most because we're kind of in the sweet spot. Yeah. And then it'll move from there. Hopefully it'll skip Gen Z, but it'll get to Gen Alpha, and that's where it's going to be really cool. Like, we're young enough to where we can catch it and run with it. Unlike our parents, they're going to be like, no, we'll just kind of keep things the way they are. Yeah. Not really take advantage. It'll change, but we're not going to take advantage of it. Yep. Our generations and our generation and younger are going to be the biggest.
And from your opinion, what do you think, from a mechanics standpoint, like what's gonna be the beneficial aspects of tokenization that
24-hour trading
will make it easy
everybody? And really,
it's just access, right, and speed.
Yeah, and the removal of dark pools being a dominant source of where trades happen.
Yeah, now there'll be nowhere to hide, right? The light will be on the market at all times. Lights are on.
That will probably increase volatility in the front end in the short term until people figure it out. But it's also going to provide transparency, and where people aren't going to be saying, hey, they set the market up on Saturday and Sunday for Monday, which, I mean, it sounds not true, but it's over 7 out of 10 trades a year take place after hours, unregulated, off ledger.
Yeah, that's crazy.
You're going to have to ask yourself why. Yeah. And the answer that they give is, well, our trade sizes and our blocks are too big. It would move the market too much. I don't know. Yeah, I don't know. I don't think that's a good enough.
Well, I mean, they're basically taking a 2-lane road and they're turning it into a 10-lane freeway, right?
Well, it's like having
more people will on-ramp, but there will also be.
It's like if there's traffic, the emergency vehicles, they drive next to the median. Yeah, it's like just using that all the time and just saying, "This is my lane." Yeah, this is my lane. It's more fair if that exists, but you have to tell everybody that you're doing it. And yes, it may move the market, but now that they see that you're selling, now they're going to sell, and now you may want to parse out.
You want to think twice about how you're going to play that.
Yeah, and because that really, in my opinion, is the reason. We don't want people to know what we're doing before we do it. That way, not only can we set them up, but we can have pretty much hindsight already set up. We know we're going to do this, so we know they'll do this, so we can prep and double it down and script some more profit over here. Let's cap and peg this stock. Let's sell it down to here because we need to get back in and average our.
So it's really leveling the playing field out in some good ways.
I don't think it'll be that.
Damn, I didn't even think about it from that perspective. So
that's to me the biggest thing it's going to do is it's going to make dark pools not a thing because they shouldn't exist. Now, will I put it past institutions to figure out a way?
Oh yeah, they'll figure something out.
They probably will, but it democratizes the idea of transparency on trading even more, and that's exciting to me.
Yep. Well, Bitcoin continues its volatility. It's trading just around 70,000 right now. It crashed 3% after Trump threatened to obliterate Iran's power plants. Again, it's interesting to me that Bitcoin continues to be a very, very volatile and risky asset. I mean, it really has. I mean, would you say it's been a good hedge against the volatility of everything going on?
That's what and I've said it for years. And then finally, I don't look as dumb here in 2026 as I might have in 2022, 2023, 2024.
Well, it's at all-time highs.
Yeah, and it's just, that's when the real legends are made. Diamonds are formed under pressure, as they say. I told you, it ain't no hedge against nothing. It's just it's a derivative. It derives its value based on somebody buying it and wanting somebody else to buy it for more. I mean, it has almost zero utility. Nobody uses it for what they say they are going to use it for, or what it could do. People buy it, hoping somebody buys it for more. And when they don't, they buy more of it, saying somebody will eventually buy it for more. I mean, that is the argument of Bitcoin summed up in about 10 seconds. So to me, that just doesn't have a lot of legs on it. Ethereum still is very exciting. I think Solana is very exciting. I think Ripple and XRP are very exciting. They have real world inputs that they actually do something. Bitcoin just doesn't. Bitcoin just reminds me of a Gen Z liberal. We'll just ride off of last week. Nobody likes them. Everybody got to deal with them. They're here. So that's like what Bitcoin is. It's here. What's great about it? I don't know. It brought eyes onto the crypto space. What's terrible about it? You think a lot of people can say a lot of things. It uses a lot of energy. What is it? What does it actually do? Who actually uses it? Oh, the majority of people that use it are not good actors? That's not great. I mean, there's also all sorts of interesting things, but I'm excited for the crypto space because one thing that would happen is with tokenization, obviously that's going to require even more integration with that. And so that moves that ball further. But every time we move forward, we're going back to our sports analogy earlier, the pool will continue to get smaller and smaller of who's relevant.
Mm-hmm.
And so my opinion is we're going to eventually get to a point that people start to swallow the pill that, at least in the crypto space, Bitcoin really isn't that relevant. Scarcity actually isn't that good. It causes mass volatility and it causes concentrated position holders.
MSTR?
Yeah, we just don't need that. So that will, I think, continue to show itself. I told you out in the lobby, I had a price range target between 35 and 45 for Bitcoin before it bottoms out. And then it probably will rally back up. But when do people want to stop going through that type of cycle? It's if that's the life of Bitcoin, where you're going to try to figure out
126 to 35, or call it 55.
It's about a 70% drop.
I mean, that's a heavy price to pay for. I've seen some of the funny memes of like people buying in at certain prices, and then they held the whole way thinking it was going to go, and then it retraces all the way back down to where they bought it, and it's like, no, that's tough to stomach as an investor, right?
Correct.
You want to get rewarded for having those diamond hands.
Don't treat your Bitcoin like it's a stock.
Yeah,
it's not. You buy quality and you hold it because it pays you. It pays you to hold it over time because the volatility, it trends up. Bitcoin is like trending down. It looks like a big mountain, and then it looks like a big other side of the mountain. It's not a good chart. It's like too much in too little of time. Again, I told y'all it needed to be regulated years ago. You guys fought it. You wanted to make it something it wasn't going to be, and so it just will never be. But I think, in the next decade, it's going to be interesting to look back and say, man, do you remember Bitcoin? Do you remember computer money? Do you remember Doge? Do you remember all these other stupid projects? Come Rocket.
You think many of those are going to end up being fossils in the crypto industry?
Absolutely. They absolutely will. I think there's going to be 3 or 4 main players. It'll be a stable coin. It's probably going to be backed by the U.S. government. So it'll be like USDT, but not Tether. It'll be the U.S. Department of Treasury. That's what it'll be, but it'll be their crypto.
Yep.
There's probably going to be Ripple. That'll be mainly used, I think, for cross-border payments. I think Ethereum will be used for development, and I think Solana is going to be used in the finance space for tokenization and NFTs. I want to say ETF. NFTs in a way it's like a ticket, or here's the deed for your house, or here's your plane tickets. Those types of NFTs, not crypto punks or whatever it is.
Yeah. Well, today, one of the biggest stablecoin issuer Circle crashed 18%. They're the parent company behind USDT.
USDC.
I'm sorry, USDC.
USDC.
Tether is on USDT. And the big part of it is there was a bill leaked that basically showed, the banks lobbying and winning for removing yield on stablecoins. So
They have done already in the majority, like in California, they allow you to keep old, but you can't buy new. And that's just stupid.
And that's a big deal, right? I mean, a lot of people, if they knew they could get the yield by just holding a token that has, an equivalent utility or stability like a dollar does, and I don't need to deal with all the bank BS and I'll just hold that, that's a major threat to the business model of banking, right? So the fact that they're going to continue fighting that, and it looks like this bill that is coming out that got leaked is what led to that big crash and showing that they might be winning that fight. So we'll keep an eye on that. Just to wrap up on some real estate today, one positive thing, as we mentioned at the beginning of the show, rents are dropping across the country. The top 15 cities with the biggest rent cuts since 2022. Austin at the top, 22% down.
Yeah. But I was just there too. I saw the problem area. It's by Rainey Street.
Mm-hmm.
When I was there 3 years ago, it was just flat. They stacked like 6. In fact, the largest building I think in Texas is in Austin right now. And they stacked 6 of these like ginormous skyscrapers. They made them all high-end lofts. They put plunge pools and cold dips and all the stuff that every Instagram influencer could ever stack into there. And then they're $4,000 a month, 18-month leases.
Yeah.
So right now, those same $1,500 a month.
Yeah, I know they're giving like a couple months away free kind of thing. I mean, there's a lot of incentives. And, when you see rates increase, we saw mortgage rates jump back up to 7% this week. High since, I believe, August of last year. Again, take it for what it's worth. When there's uncertainty around rates, renters just freeze. They stop, right? So we've actually seen a 2-decade record of apartments and rental renewals. And that's a good, sign of basically a result of, if I can't afford and I don't know what rates are going to be, I'm just going to hold tight, right? And so we've seen a lot of supply and product come online over the last few years, as well as, people getting way too frothy with their asking prices on rental rates. Therefore, we're seeing some retracement right now. I mean, you've got Florida, almost 20%, Fort Myers, Florida, a handful of Florida cities, Atlanta, Georgia, 11.4%, Orlando, 11%, Nashville, Tennessee, 10.7%. So I think this is honestly a healthy correction. It's not a great thing for, commercial real estate investors and asset values, so to speak, when you see your, revenue and your NOI drop, especially with expanding cap rates. That's kind of a double whammy. And actually, let's call it a triple whammy when you got increasing, interest rates and you're getting hit on all ends of your valuation and your income. But that's why you got to model accordingly to make sure you can weather these kind of storms. And this just happened to be one of those perfect storms that kind of hit certain asset classes in many different directions. So I think overall, this is, a positive thing if you are somebody that's trying to find a quality place to live. It's like a place like that, right? You can get it for a relatively good steal right now, and you have options. You got leverage. Same thing on buyers. We're still seeing the highest housing demand collapse that we've ever seen right now, even more so than post-2008 financial crisis. We've got U.S. new home sales fell 17.6% month over month in January, which is the lowest since 2022. Marks the largest monthly drop since July of 2013. We got year-over-year sales fell 11.3%, the worst annual decline in 3 years. The Northeast was hit the hardest. We've got the median New home price fell 6.8% year over year to 400,000, which is the lowest since 2024, bringing the 3-month average down to 410,000. That's, at least something positive if you're in the market to buy. Mortgage rates have jumped 33 basis points over the last 2 weeks. Those are north of 7% now. And I think we're going to see higher interest rates probably hold around this particular area until we really get a little bit more clarity around what happens in the Middle East.
Oil snapped down. It's sub 80 right now, or sub 90 right now. It's $89 a barrel. So we're from 106 down to 89. I think we're going to continue to trend down. If things move in the direction that they're looking like they are, then the market will quickly recover back to where it is. And probably then some. It's going to look a lot, I think, like 2024. We have a little bit of volatility. We go in the red for a bit, pull back out of it, and make a double-digit year.
New home sales, 587,000 when it was expected 722,000. That was kind of a big delta there, down 17.6% based on expectations. That print last week was a little bit shocking, but again, I think overall, these are things that are a sign of the times and are going to be really, I think we'll have a little bit more clarity heading into the end of the year and heading into next year. 49% of U.S. residents struggle to pay rent or mortgages per Redfin. We are seeing an uptick in servicing, some foreclosures. So these are all things to, kind of pay attention to. But again, I think these are the times where it's just time to lock in, man. Just time to lock in. Don't let the fear, continue to drive everything you do and think that the world is coming to an end. As you mentioned, right? I mean, when we were talking earlier of like, man, we saw major volatility and a massive pullback last April. Like, what was going on then? I literally had to Google it. I had to pull that shit up and be like, oh, it was tariffs. And oh, we had some China conflict. And guess what? The world kept spinning, right? And that's obviously
just my point all the
time and time again, under every administration, certain points throughout every year. Will there be black swan events? Yeah,
100%.
of course. And here's the thing: if they're talking about the black swan event, then it ain't coming.
And it ain't a black swan.
And it's not a black swan event. Black swan events are when you get freaking blindsided.
COVID was a real black swan event. That's the last one we have ever seen.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think the dot-com bust was black swan. 2008 certainly wasn't. It was to retail investors, but they knew it was coming for over a year behind closed doors. COVID was a black swan. That's when that's what it looks like. And we're way above where the market was then. So just stop betting against the U.S. market. It's retarded.
There you go. Well, we're going to wrap up on that. As always, we appreciate you guys. If you want to connect with Ryan, text the word X-ray, 844-447-1555. If you want to connect with me and my team, you're a passive accredited investor, text the word deals to 844-447-1555. As always, we appreciate you guys listening. Keep investing in yourself and your wealth on your march to $1 million and beyond. We'll see you guys in next week's episode.
Cheers, y'all.